All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Ruach HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings into the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you, I say shalom. This is the brother Yeshaya coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. Back again with another lesson. This one's going to be entitled, Would the US Use the Guillotine? All right. And, that's posed as a question because as I have this article right here, I'm going to read it real quick. This is from ctvnews.com, I guess. But it says Trump approves electrocutions, firing squads, and gases for US federal executions. Right. And one thing, we know according to prophecy is that the guillotine, or the death sentence of being beheaded will be used, here in America, right? But, again, everything has its process, and we've seen that with Trump in office, he's like, uh, 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 how should I put it? He's pretty much headstrong on trying to bring these old forms of uh, uh, executions, back, into the system. Hold on. Right. So again, I posed it as a question: Would the U.S. use the guillotine? Right, which we understand that they will, but right now they have so they just added electrocutions. They added the firing squads and the gas chamber. Right. And I want to read a little bit into this, and then have another article I want to get into. But it says the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration plans to add firing squads, electrocution, and gas asphyxiation as alternative methods of executing people convicted of the gravest federal crimes. And it announced on Friday, noting difficulties in obtaining drugs for lethal injections. Right, so they're giving you the reason why they're adding these things is because of them not being able to obtain, the drugs to pretty much give these people that are on death row the lethal injection. But it says the recommendation came in a U.S. Justice Department report fulfilling Trump's promise to resume capital punishment at the federal level in his second term. In his first term, which ended in 2021, he resumed it after a 20-year gap, executing 13 federal prisoners with lethal injections in his final few months in office. Acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche, who released the report, hath authorized seeking death sentences against 9 people after Trump resigned a moratorium on federal uh, executions by his predecessor, Joe Biden, the department said. And as we see, this man, you know, we believe this man is that cruel Lord, man. This man is the man that's going to bring in the return of the Lord, that's going to bring in, the persecution, right, to those who fear Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? He's going to bring in all these things that's going to be deemed as, Jacob's trouble, right? Or the scriptures call Jacob's trouble, right? And we're seeing that from his first term. His last few months, he got these people executed, and now that he's on his second term, we've seen ever since he came into office, the trail of death that he has left behind, right? And now he's talking about how there ain't gonna be no more elections, how he's gonna pretty much uh, uh, create room for him to rule perpetually, or create a third term for him, right? So, hey, this man is that cruel Lord. This man is coming with a sword. This man is, hey, what happened whenever he came into office? Brothers, remember that image or that video of him, wielding the sword, right? So, hey, this is that man, that's going to bring in all these evils here on the earth here soon. And he's starting off with, bringing these capital punishments or these methods, of capital punishments, back into the system, right? But it says, continuing on, it says among the actions taken are readopting the lethal injection protocol utilized during the first Trump administration, expanding the protocol to include additional manners of execution, such as the firing squad, and streamlining internal processes to expedite death penalty cases. It said in a statement. So it says reviving old methods, adding a new one. In the report, Blanche instructed the U.S. Justice Department's Bureau of Prisons to modify its execution protocol. To include additional constitutional manners of execution that are currently provided for by the law of certain states, pointing to the older methods of firing squads and electrocution and the new gas asphyxiation method pioneered by Alabama in 2024. It says this modification will help ensure the department is prepared to carry out lawful executions even if a specific drug is unavailable, the report said. It says Biden, Democrat, commuted the sentences of 37 of the people awaiting executions on federal death row, leaving only 3 men. I don't even know how to pronounce that dude's name, but it says convicted of 2015 for the deadly bombing of the Boston Marathon. Uh, Dylan Roof, convicted in 2017 of killing 9 worshippers of the South Carolina church, and Robert Bowers, convicted in 2023 of killing 11 people at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It says legal challenges to execution methods are daunting. It can take many years to condemn prisoners to exhaust all legal avenues for challenging their death sentences, and none of the 3 men have yet received execution dates. Now, all this is gonna end up changing soon, man. Soon, they're gonna have to start fast tracking, the rate that they start executing people, especially, when you have sedition, because with the way Trump is running things, you know, he's going to end up causing a lot of people to start rioting, a lot of people to start, committing insurrection, right? And once he institutes that Insurrection Act, they already deem, according to the Patriot Act, they already deem, all Americans, as potential, potential threats, you know, terrorist threats, right? So with all this in place, which we know Esau, he sets everything in place. He uses his different policies, to justify himself, in doing what he does, right? But all these things, he's putting everything in place. He's setting all his ducks in a row to where whenever he comes down with that wrath, let's get that in Revelation 12 and 12. Pretty much he's gonna be justified, man. He's gonna have no resistance as far as the Congress and all these different branches of government, aren't gonna be able to resist. Everything's gonna be just fast tracked. But this is Revelation 12 and 12. It says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. Right? So this man is coming, is having everything ready, right? He's preparing everything. So he's prepared to come down on you people with a sword, especially the believers, right? But again, that wrath is coming, man, right? And he's gonna be using different methods of firing squads, electrocution, you know what I'm saying? Hey, who knows, man? The hangings might start coming back, but we know for sure the guillotine will come back, man, right? And I want to get this article too before I continue, um, because this is an old article, right, from 2023. But it says Donald Trump wants to use the firing squad, mass executions, and videos to turn executions into reality TV, right? So they're gonna. So this is something that's in his mind, right? To make this to be able to broadcast these deaths, as to set an example, and to put fear into people's minds, which ain't there ain't really nothing wrong with that because, in the scriptures, if anybody commits a crime, that should be done. That pretty much that's worthy of death. That should be done publicly, right? The stonings, the setting, people that commit adultery on fire, right? Certain things, that are worthy of death. It has to be done publicly, and people need to see that. The scripture talk about because the sentence to an evil work pretty much is not executed speedily. Therefore, the sons of men is fully setting them to do setting them to do evil. Roughly paraphrasing, right? So these different methods of public execution, even though there's nothing wrong with it, but it kind of shows you the trajectory where this is going, right? This man is preparing to, because we understand, that we're talking about the wicked here, man. He is gonna come headstrong. Pretty much, he's gonna be headstrong and really, really, how should I put it? Um, Pretty much, he's gonna be coming against those that are believers of the word, believers of the truth, right? So he's gonna deem the Bible to be, you know, whatever, what I'm saying. He's gonna ban the Bible, he's gonna make it to where, you know, they're gonna deem the Bible to be hate speech, be the Bible to be a radical religion or whatever, Who knows the type of slander and the blame he's gonna bring against the ministry, but we understand it's gonna be harsh enough to where he's going to start persecuting and putting those who believe in the word to death, right? But it says, and as you see here, it shows a picture of a guillotine, right? But it says Donald Trump has long loved the death penalty. It now seems that he wants to turn executions into spectacles of cruelty. It says on February 14, Rolling Stone reported that if he is returned to the White House, Trump has a three-part plan to heighten the drama of state killing, which he's back in office, right? But it says first he would like to have the federal government to use a firing squad, hanging, or even the guillotine when it puts people to death. See, now he already got the firing squad in. He got electrocution, he got the gas chamber, right? Now all he needs to bring in is hanging and the guillotine, right? But it says, which we believe that's coming soon, man. That's gonna be, fast tracked here, in the next coming months or even weeks. But it says second, it says he thinks it should carry out mass executions by killing many people at one time. Third, he would like to film and broadcast at least some part of the execution process. Since Trump measures all things by how well they play on television, it is not surprising that he would want executions to become made for TV events. So this kind of reminds me of these movies like what's that one movie? It had Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Um, The Running Man, right? Where they were pretty much broadcasting this like game show that pretty much that showed people pretty much being put to death, essentially, right? So if this is what's in his mind, this almost reminds me of Nero. When he started building the Colosseum and hosting those gladiator events. You know, but anyway, let me get this also because I looked this up. It says treason in the U.S. Constitution because that's pretty much what they're gonna be coming at us with, right? These different accusations, but mainly treason, right? So it says treason is the only crime specifically denied or defined in the U.S. Constitution, Article 3, Section 3, limited to levying war against the U.S. or adhering to aiding their enemies. Um, it says conviction requires two witnesses to the same overt act or a confession in open court. It says, and punishment is determined by Congress, excluding corruption of blood. So it says, definition, levying war. It says, acts of violence intended to overthrow the government or oppose the execution of its laws, which is something that they could come at us against, right? It says, adhering to enemies, aid, and comfort. It says, assisting the enemy, which typically implies foreign nations or groups holding hostile, nonpartisan loyalty against the U.S., right? So they can say that we're doing that because we're preaching the word, especially once the angels start turning up, you know, which they're going to deem as an outside force, an outside military, and outside army, right? That they're going to end up fighting against. So, hey, who knows, man, the type of shit that this man's going to come out with, man, right? But best believe, these accusations will start coming, right? You have, what's his name? Different witnesses. You have the AI, right? Who they're keeping track of all this information, all the videos, right? So that way they can use it against us. You can use AI as a witness, right? They can use, what's his name? Vocab Malone, and all these different Christians that are coming up against us as witnesses, right? Shit, even your own family members, right? Friends, they can use them as witnesses. Shit, you're gonna have, spies that are amongst us. You're gonna have, uh, um, brothers that are gonna betray, other brothers in the faith, right? All this is written in the scriptures that will come to pass, man. So don't be surprised, right, when these things do happen. But let me see. Let's go ahead and get this. Second Ezra 16 and verse 67. It says, "Behold, the Most High is the judge. Fear him, leave off from your sins, and forget your iniquities, to meddle no more with them forever. So shall the Most High lead you forth and deliver you from all trouble." Right? So repentance is key here, right? Turning back from your iniquities and pretty much cleaving unto the ways of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, you know. But it says, verse 68, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you, and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols." Right? So there's going to be, you know, pretty much the whole world is pretty much going to turn against us, right? You already see that the majority of even of our own people, they don't believe. They really hate us. They despise this truth. And then add in the heathen, add in Esau and pretty much Esau and these other nations, is going to be a huge multitude that's going to turn against us, just based off what we teach, just based off what we say, right? Especially once America starts getting hit even worse with these plagues, people are going to start looking for someone to blame, and they're going to start blaming us, right? But it says, let me read this back. It says, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered unto idols." So they're going to take us to these concentration camps, right? And you can also, apply this to what they call them. I forgot the term. Pretty much is re-education programs, right? Where they're gonna, you have to go through this process of relearning different things, and they're gonna start teaching you, you know, uh, uh, pretty much they're going to use it as a system to re-indoctrinate you, and make you pretty much turn away from the scriptures, right? But it says, verse 69, it says, "And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot." Right? So if you consent unto them, so if you're like, okay, I, you know, you deny the Lord, and you accept their ways, you're gonna be held, under derision and reproach, right? And eventually you're gonna be trodden underfoot, man. This man is gonna show no mercy. Talking about Esau, Edom, right? And to those who betray the faith, well, the Most High is gonna show you no mercy. But it says, verse 70, it says, "For there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord." Right? So a great insurrection, man. They're going to be hunting us down. They're going to be persecuting us, right? They're going to be using all their means to their disposal, right? These cameras that's everywhere, the CCTV cameras, your Ring cameras, right? All these different, types of forms of surveillance, they're going to be using to try to hunt you down, right? This is why the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is going to have to be dealing with us in these days, so that way we can be protected and be delivered from, all these things, you know, because the most I can have it to where, here it is, you might pass through, a city that has all these cameras, but the most I can have it to where all these cameras would just be turned off for that moment, right? Or not, or make you invisible. We like our apostles and elders been saying, man, we're gonna start seeing true miracles at work here, man, right? Especially in these days. And pursuant to Daniel 12 and 1, how the archangel Michael is going to have to come down and pretty much fight for us, right? So we're going to be having angels fight for us. Brothers are going to be having spiritual power, right? So these days shouldn't make us afraid, but understand that these days are coming, right? But it says, verse 71, it says, they shall be like madmen, sparing none, right? You're going to be having, you can almost picture it like whenever they were doing the lynchings of Jake, man. You had crowds, coming in and joining in into this madness, man, right? But it says they're gonna be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, right? So they're gonna be kicking down your door, they're gonna be taking you out, right? Take away your goods, right? Because people are going to be, lacking food too. So they're going to be taking any kind of valuables that you got and even your food. But it says, they shall, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire, right? So this is going to be a time of great testing to see where your loyalties truly lie, whether it's to this world or whether it's to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, right? But it says, hear, O ye, my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Right? So the days of trouble are at hand. We're fastly approaching it, but the Most High says He's going to deliver us from these times. Those of us that serve Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, we're going to be protected in these days. Right? And those who are not, they're going to be taken in it. All right? But it says, be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your God. It says, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord power, let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. Right? So the Most High is going to be our guide. All we got to do is remain locked in. Don't stop wavering. Right? Especially right now, we're still living somewhat decently, and you have men wavering, man. How much more in these times are we coming into? Your faith has to be solidified. Right? Especially in the face of death. Scripture talk about be faithful unto death, and I shall give thee a crown of life. Right? Plain and simple. Now it's easier said than done. This is the reason, like I said, the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shah is gonna have to be on us, man. But just going back to the point of the video, the guillotine, will be, an instrument that's gonna be used to behead those, right, who ain't gonna take and submit to the beast system or take the MOTB, right? As a matter of fact, before I get that, let me get Revelation 16 or 13 and 16. Right, because that MOTB is a key. It's going to be a key factor here soon. But it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark. That word for mark is charagma, right? But it says in their right hand or in their foreheads. So it's going to be an actual branding, an actual, um, um, an instrument, pretty much some technology, which is a microchip, right? So it's technology is going to be implanted into your skin, where you're going to be able to buy and sell. But it says verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark of the name of the beast, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Right? So you're gonna have to use this to be um um pretty much joined into the new system that they wanna implement, right? Which is gonna be through this it's gonna be all digital. You already see the way the UN and these EU nations are headed. They're going pretty much digital, right? They're developing their what do they call it, the CBDC. They got the digital ID in place. You know, and it's a slow progress, but it's they're doing it like pretty quick. This is a pretty much a gradual escalation to where they're desensitizing people. Even with like the way you pay at stores. 15 years ago, everybody pay with cash. Everybody use cash. Maybe use your credit card or debit card, but now people are using their phones. People are using their just mainly just their cards, man. Right? And that's just a progress of getting everybody's minds used to, using that. And then you had what a couple years ago they brought out Amazon. I believe it's called Amazon One or something like that. Walgreens had their own form of, of palm scanning or something like that, right? QR codes and shit. Well, all that is coming, man. All that is pretty much a gradual process of getting you accustomed to that, tap to pay, that scan to pay, right? Which is going to lead up to the MOTB. But anyway, let me go back to Revelation 20. Revelation 20 and verse 4 says, "And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded." See, so they were beheaded. So what are they going to be using? They're going to be using that guillotine, right? It says, "And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai," because there's going to be a lot of people that Esau is going to be, be putting on that chopping block, right? It's going to be a lot of people that ain't going to submit to his system. So the fastest way to do that, because bullets, require, ammunition. I mean, guns require ammunition, right? So they don't want to waste so much bullets on people. You know, the gas chamber, it uses up a lot of whatever forms of toxins. You know what I'm saying? What was the other one? Electrocution requires energy. The one that requires almost little to no resource is the guillotine. All you gotta do is slide that blade up and let it come down, right? That's gonna be their, I guess you could say that's gonna be their fastest way, and also hangings or whatever. But mainly the auction block. That's gonna be the fastest way, and uh, you know, pretty much a lot of people put to death. But anyway, let me read this. It says, "And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai and for the word of the Most High, and which had not worshipped the beast, neither had his image, neither had received his mark upon their foreheads or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Mashiach 1,000 years." Right? Because not one thing I want to add too is not all the believers are going to be beheaded, right? Yahweh Shai is coming to save some people, right? There are going to be some of us that's going to be beheaded, but a lot of us is going to be, a lot of us that remain are going to be delivered up into those chariots, right? To escape the judgment that's going to befall America, which is going to be a nuclear destruction, right? And then after that, those who are delivered and those who pretty much died for the name of Yahweh Bashim El Shai, they're going to be up in those chariots witnessing the destruction of America. And when all the dust settles, they're going to come down and rule over the earth, right? And it's going to take a period of about 1,000 years to establish the kingdom of heaven, right? Now, let me get this. Because people will say, well, this is all, seed theory, this is all, you know, um, the way they talk about us, that we're radicals and all this and that, the things that we're saying, is in the Bible, but, all this ain't going to happen until later on. No, this is happening very quick, man. The fact that you had Donald Trump in office talking about, doing all these things, as we read in that article, making it public, and talking about hangings and bringing the guillotine and firing squads, right? All this is biblical prophecy, man, coming to pass. But this is Habakkuk 2 and 3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie." You see, so this vision, the vision of Jacob's trouble, the vision of uh, 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 the martyrs, being put to death. The vision of, because like I said, it's not just going to be those that believe in Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to be put to death. You're going to be having some of these Christians who know what the mark is that ain't going to submit. Some of these other people that commit treason or war against the government, a lot of them are going to be put to death as well, you know. But understand, according to to those that believe, those who are innocent, right? Because all we're doing is preaching the word, but we're innocent to the eyes of the Lord, but to this world, we're going to be deemed as criminals. We're going to be deemed as pretty much undesirables, especially to this new system. But it says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry, right? So we're seeing the Most High is not tarrying. These prophecies are not tarrying. Everything is moving. Everything's moving quick, man. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you could probably say something, but now, hey, everything is moving at a more rapid pace, man. Every week is something new. Every day is something new. Our apostles always say, you miss a day, you miss a lot, right? So, hey, this is the reason why you got to continue to stay on your watch and continue to, look at prophecy, really understand prophecy, get the understanding of prophecy, and be able to, see what's going on in the world, so you can know what time you're living in. And when you do that, you'll see that we're living in the end, right? So this vision is for an appointed time, but again, it's speaking right now. All right. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. I'm gonna give praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Rachak Wadash, and I'm also gonna say double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught me this truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing His word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. Until the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom, Kwam Yashala.